All right, here we are back at the PAL branded Paillard here. I've been playing with it. There's a few issues I may have to address. For one thing, the spring gave a bit of a rumble before, which it shouldn't have done. I've had this about 8-9 years, been working on it on and off. When I got it, it had a broken spring. So what I did was I sent the spring barrel to George Valima at what's he called? Great Lakes Antique Phonograph. George, a great guy. He got all kinds of stuff. And whenever I have a weird spring, a small size spring like this, I just don't have anything like that. I will send it to him, and he generally does come up with it. He replaced the broken spring using the old one as the model. And I'm not sure what kind of grease he used, and I'm not sure if it's dried out. It might have. I may have to open it up again. No, I'm going to open it up again and check the grease to make sure. Either that or just the spring was just settling. You never know. It's been sitting a while. It might have had a sticky spot. Because it didn't do it again. Anyway, while I was working on this, I noticed something about the reproducer that escaped my attention. The first time I was playing with it, because I really haven't played this machine because of the gear. I was waiting to find a gear and I found the gear years ago. I just haven't had a chance to get back to it. But the gear is in there now. The replacement gear, fiber gear, and figured I would spin some records and see. But I checked out the reproducer. Now, I mentioned this is not your common Paillard reproducer. It is a Paillard reproducer. And it looks like pretty much all of them that you find on these machines. However, while most of the ones I've seen, all of the ones I've seen like this, had an aluminum diaphragm with this aluminum clam. Well, this is aluminum outer cover and steel back. Like they all seem to have, however, this has a either mica or glass diaphragm in it, which is something I really haven't seen on these. Every one of these chrome decks and the crinkle cut colored ones, all of these Swiss machines, Thorents that I have, they all had aluminum diaphragms. This one is not, and it's definitely factory. That's not, I opened it up, I looked. It's definitely a factory set in there. This is not the kind of thing you casually throw a diaphragm in. You do have to drill 6 holes for one thing, and you need the special gaskets. They don't use rubber gaskets in these. They don't use felt ones either, like HMV does. At best I can describe them, they look like some kind of a tar paper. Very thin, and they're wide. They're wide and they're thin, and they're like attached to the diaphragm. And the holes are drilled through the diaphragm and the gaskets. You see the screws on the reproducer there? That goes right through both of them. So you don't just go throwing a diaphragm in there just for fun to see if it would work. So that was definitely done at the factory. But, Paillard was innovating all kinds of things during this era. You never know what they were going to come up with next. All different sorts of motors and reproducers. There must be a dozen different reproducers. While this may look like the ordinary reproducer, like I said, it's definitely not. And that was not the only thing I found. I noticed when I put a needle in it, I don't know if it's easy to see this, that the needle was not aligned 90% with the reproducer body. It should be. You can almost see it in the view there, that it's not quite aligned. Normally when I see that, well, it's been dropped a few hundred times, and now I have to straighten a needle bar out. That's common. I would say 98% of the reproducers I have to rebuild, the needle bar is bent out of alignment somehow, and it needs to be straightened a little bit. Not hard to do when you know how to do it. I'm looking over this, and I'm thinking, now how is it bent? Where is it bent? It doesn't look like it's bent. It isn't a situation where the gaskets have shriveled and caused the needle bar to be out of alignment. Everything looks like it should be. Everything is lined up in there perfect. There's no sign of damage. It is not an easy needle bar to bend. You see the 4 screws there, the arrangement holding that on. That is not easy to bend. You can drop this pretty hard and you're not going to damage the needle bar. You'll break the reproducer first. So I looked at it a little more carefully and I put it on the record. Let's put it on the record there and I'll show you. Okay, now you can see probably that it is... I'm going to hold the camera straight with the record, and you'll notice that the reproducer is canted slightly. The whole tone arm is causing that. The tone arm is set to align the reproducer at a slight angle. But while the reproducer is at a slight angle to the record, that needle, as you can see, is perfectly 90 degrees. It's right where it should be when it's on the record. So this is factory. This is not damage. This is not misfortune somewhere along the way. That is factory. Another innovation, perhaps. Why they did it, I don't know. I have no idea. I have very little information on the Paillard machines. But fortunately, I thought to check this before I went taking things apart and trying to straighten anything, because this is exactly where it should be. Now, on a normal, like a number 4 or a number 2, whatever, the reproducer would be straight, 90 degrees, and then the needle would be on the record at 90 degrees. You know, obviously, there's an angle on there, it's supposed to be there, but that's perfect. That's right where it should be. I even mounted a number 4 reproducer on here just to see how it would align. It was out of alignment. It was canted off to the side like that, and the needle was not 90 degrees. And I'm like, well, that is something else. They were innovating something here. What they were trying to do, I'm not really sure. Now, this is a very large mica ore glass. I'm not really sure what it is, and I'm not going to break it to find out. It's very large. It's bigger than the number 4 reproducer, which is itself about as big as most that's the same size as Columbia. As big as most a reproducer gets, mica diaphragm gets. And I've noticed that it's a bit on the loud side. I mean, these machines are loud anyway. It has a huge horn. This horn starts here, goes all around. It's a solid tin horn, all tin, all through there, and gets really big in the back. So these machines are known for volume, probably why the PAL decided they wanted to have a volume control on the back right over there. Not all of these chrome decks have that. This one does. And what we're going to do is, this is Choo Choo San, Paul Whitman. We're going to play this record. It's in fairly good condition. We're going to play this record with the loud tone needle. You'll hear it blast a bit. And then we're going to switch and play it with a low tone needle. And you'll see the difference. This is a machine with this reproducer, and jazz records like these, you're going to need a low tone needle, I think. That's what it seems to be. Even though it is a mica diaphragm, and you think, well, that's not orthophonic, why would you need that? Well, apparently you do. Even though you're not, I have not yet tried to play an electrically amplified record on this. These are not VEs, these are ordinary Batwing Victors from the early 20s. And they're acoustic, yet they're pretty loud. So we'll have a look, have a listen rather, I should say. Another thing about these things, you will know, on these Swiss machines, you do have to, they're made to crank very easily. Even the smallest child could crank one of these with no problem. But, and I counted, from dead stop, no power at all, absolutely flat spring, to full power, it's 138 cranks. 138. And they're not the strongest of motors. If the record's in good condition, you never have a problem with them. But if you have a really worn record, even at full power, it'll stop it. I had that happen. I had one record that was really nasty. And it stopped the motor dead. But Choo Choo Shan doesn't have that problem. So we'll spin this up and you can hear it with, I should take that off before I spin it up, with the loud tone, and then we will try the low tone needle. And you'll get an idea. Let's see. Spin her up. Hear that old thunk right in the middle of playing? That is a spring noise. So we will definitely be reopening the spring cans on this one to see what's going on. Now, let's get rid of the old needle. And I will put on a low tone, small needle. Low tone just means it's little. I'll show you in a second. I'm going to separate out a couple here. They stick into my fingers. That's the low tone. About half the size of the high tone needles and loud tone. There. And to give it full power again, you can see what I mean about the winding. Let's see. From one record playing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. 65 turns! Might have let it spin a little bit before, too. It takes up some power, but... Okay, now we'll play Choo Choo Sand again with the low tone needle, and you'll see the difference. There we go. You can see how that low tone needle has moderated some of those high notes that were kind of blasting with the loud tone needle. And when you have a reproducer this big with a horn this big, especially a tin horn, you're probably better off using the lower tone needles, you know, to get a better sound out of the records, because otherwise a lot of these records are going to blast. Like I said, I have not played a Victor Electric on this. This is strictly an acoustic machine. It obviously was not really designed for, you know, a lot of the electrics does not have an orthophonic style reproducer, although the one that's very close. Probably better, it handles it better than number 4 does. But yeah, that's what happened. That's why they make different size needles. I know some people get confused about that. They see, like on eBay, high tone, low tone, mid tone. That's so you can select the needle that sounds best with the record you happen to be playing. One needle does not fit every record. Yeah, it'll play every record, but, well, at least these type of records. But one needle does not play every record well. You need to know what you're playing and select the proper needle for it. Now, if you're playing Victor Electrics on these types of machines, always go for the low tone, the smallest needles. One, it's easier on the records, and it's also, you know, it moderates the sound a little bit, so it's not just blasting, like at full volume. Let's take that out. Well, obviously, I'm going to pull the springs back out of this. Easy enough to do. They're not hard to do. And give them a good cleaning and a re-greasing with some nice super lubes and stuff like that, and we will see if we can find out why they were thumping like that. It's a pretty bad thump, too. I mean, it has been sitting, but still. Generally, grease lasts longer than that. But not a big deal. It's not going to get done today. You know, right now I'm just giving it an evaluation, and I wanted to test out that new gear. And that's working pretty good. That, and I got a little fascinated by that reproducer. I've actually never run into that particular issue with these reproducers, or that's not something I would expect to find on a Victor machine. That's mostly what I work on. You know, these Paillards are sort of, I'm learning as I go. You know, some things are similar to Victor, some not. But to find a reproducer that's got that kind of an angle, and like I said, it's the tone arm is angled for it. Everything is engineered on this, so this reproducer is at a little bit of an angle, only a few degrees, but while it's doing that, that needle is perfectly 90 degrees. So they had a reason for it. Why? I don't know. But I'm sure somehow they thought it might improve the sound. I mean, it does sound good. So, you know, I imagine... but it does limit what I can do with this machine because of that little modification. In order to put an ordinary orthophonic style aluminum diaphragm reproducer on this, I would have to change the entire tone arm, which I could do. I do have spares. But I don't think I want to do that. I want to leave this the way it was. There's nothing wrong with the reproducer. I opened it up, checked it out. Everything's good in there. It plays well, as long as the records are good. So we're going to leave that alone. And it fits the little clamp they got there. All right, that's it for now. Just a look at it to start. You know, this typical I guess it's early 1930s. And in this case, it was made for PAL. Well, somebody made it for PAL. I don't know if PAL made their own cases or not. Obviously, Paillard supplied the parts and PAL supplied the case. Or maybe a third party took Swiss parts, put them in this case, put PAL's little stamp on there, and sold it to them, and they marketed it as their own. Who knows? I don't really have that information at my fingertips. So, but there you go. A look at another project, and the one after this is going to be a Victor Victrola 50. That'll be later in the week. I have a nice oak one selected. Haven't done one in a while, so it's time. I have quite a few of them in storage, waiting for my attention. And I've been doing a lot of big machines lately, so I want to do some little ones. Well, I did a lot of 101s, but those were more or less to order. You know, so I'm going to hold off on the Victrola, the 9s and the 8s and all of that for a little while and play around with some different machines, including the 50, because I haven't done one in quite a while. And that's that.